thank you for coming to our first joint interaction. It's very exciting to be here with the directors of all of the major schools in the Boston area. This is an opportunity for participants to get advice on getting started or getting finished with your application, and to hear from a diverse group of schools and the directors thereof. So just going to remind everybody, participants, to just keep your stay on mute during the presentations. We will have questions at the end of all 5 presentations. If you'd like to use the chat function to just basically get in queue, that would be one way to do it. Otherwise, we'll just use the raise our hand function, and we will answer any questions that you might have there. We will also have a breakout session at the end, and I'll give you instructions then on being able to join whatever rooms you'd like to go to and to speak to the directors in a more in a smaller setting. So we're going to try to go for about 40 minutes altogether, and be done within the hour. So let's just start with some introductions in the order of our presentations. I'll just start. My name is Vic Kanwar. I'm the Director of Graduate and Global Programs at Boston College Law School. I'm going to be chairing this session today.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining this morning. My name is Bridget Sandusky, and I am the Assistant Dean of Graduate Law Programs at Suffolk University Law School.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maureen Leo. I'm the Director of the American Law Program at Boston University School of Law, and I'm also a lecturer there where I teach legal research and writing. So glad to be with everyone this morning.
Hello, my name is Megan Marr. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions for LLM and International Programs at Northeastern University School of Law.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Chalmers. I'm the Dean of Admissions at New England Law School. I oversee both the JD and the Graduate Law Program.
Vic, you're muted, so we can't hear.
That's a classic moment there. So I'm going to get started. Like I said, let's let all the speakers go through their presentation, and then we will gather up all questions for the end. So let's see. Okay, does it look like we're good to go? Okay, great. I'm going to just start with the question of what is an LLM, basically, and are you in the right room? Are you somebody who should be seeking an LLM? Okay, so that's the basic advice that might be the least useful presentation of all today, but it's worth getting out of the way. Just to say a word or two about where I'm coming from, we are all located in the state of Massachusetts, and more specifically in the Boston area. So we're all in really good company as far as the educational scene goes. Massachusetts, the state, has the highest concentration of elite liberal arts colleges in the US. And the Boston area has, among other things, the largest number of Research One universities in the whole region really is a educational capital. So among other things, the first high schools, the first public school, the first private school, and many of the first colleges of different kinds were all created in this region. So it's well known as an area of that sort. As for us, we are somewhat very hard to distinguish because we share our name with at least one other school here. We share our colors with many others. So I'm going to give you just the one way to remember us, which is we're the one that has the word college in it. And that is meaningful as well, because though our college, Boston College, is a major Research One university, it also has the feel of a liberal arts college, and we try to aspire to have that small, intimate feeling. So the law school is kind of a much smaller, kind of almost like a little sanctuary. We're in a kind of very suburban area. And our LLM program in particular, I think, exemplifies a lot of those kinds of values. So we keep our program very, very small. So 10 to actually 15 to 20. Our ideal is about 15 students each year. And that might seem very strange, but this is our group here right now. Many of our students are from the Sorbonne, from various schools in Latin America, Europe, and Asia. And we keep it small, we keep it integrated with the JD program, and we try to give it a family feeling. So that's our pitch. College is the way to remember us. As for the LLM, there are basically two kinds of questions you might want to look at the beginning. And you want to see, first of all, whether you qualify for an LLM. And then secondly, if you do qualify, whether you should be pursuing an LLM, right? Whether the benefits are there that are appropriate to you. LLM, of course, is a Master of Laws degree. And what that means in all contexts really is that it's a second law degree. So you would be either a law graduate or a lawyer from any country. So in the case of the United States, our first law degree, though it's at the graduate level, is called the JD. The JD is considered a first law degree, and JD graduates would have the option to pursue an LLM if they wish to. But many students abroad, and many of you, will have gotten an LLB, which is a bachelor's level first law degree. The LLM is also designed to follow the LLB. The main way that we know whether you're qualified for the LLM is that first law degree that you have is the kind that entitles you to enter legal practice. And so in that case, if you have a bachelor's of law, and that would be the basic qualification for entering legal practice, then the LLM would be appropriate as a second degree. If you don't have a first law degree, sorry, this cuts off here, there are other degrees that you might consider. So there are offerings that are master's degrees for non-lawyers. So you have not gone to law school yet, or you're not a lawyer. There are some schools that have master's degrees that are not LLMs. They have other names such as MSL, MLS, but it's important to know that those are not degrees that qualify you to take a bar exam. The other option is, if you do not have any law degree, you can consider doing a JD degree in the US. For that, you would have to take the LSAT exam. But the JD is open to any majors of any subject. So since in the United States, we do not have typically an undergraduate program in law, law school draws graduates of every program. Okay. The LLM, as far as its specific benefits go, I'm going to contrast them at some point with the relative benefits as against the JD or that other kinds of master's degrees. But my basic statement is that the benefit of an LLM is as diverse as the different professionals who would be taking the degree and the individual goals that you have. So basically, the benefits of the LLM should be clear to you before you apply. They should be benefits that are important to you. Okay. So these are some of the examples of different places that people might be coming from in pursuing an LLM. It could be that you are a legal practitioner from outside the US. You want to come get some comparative experience or take a bar exam, but then return to practice abroad. Some people pursue an LLM for the purpose of teaching abroad or doing doctoral level work. Some have the goal specifically of taking a bar exam in the US and possibly trying to transition into practicing law in the US in one of the jurisdictions. There are others, and we have some in our program, who have long been in the US, though they are foreign law graduates. They've been here not practicing law and would like to return to legal practice. And this would be one way to be able to take the bar. Actually, John is going to take up bar questions in his presentation towards the end. Finally, the LLM or some LLMs are open to US JD graduates hoping to specialize in an area. Some of the popular areas are tax law, compliance, IP. These would be areas that are not specifically bar tested or mainstream first year kinds of classes, but they implicate a certain kind of practice. And other US JD graduates do an LLM in order to transition or build their portfolio for legal academia or maybe another academic field. So I myself have a JD as well as an LLM. I'm American educated and raised, but my goal 20 years ago was to teach in a law school, and that I have done for most of the last 20 years. So in terms of each category, there are specific kinds of goals that the LLM can address. For those who wish to return abroad, there is the idea of getting some transferable skills, comparative exposure, or just being able to have a broader transnational perspective. Another way to think about it is to become a better lawyer where you are. You would have a second kind of legal language to be able to kind of hack different kinds of problems, or to be entrepreneurial and create a boutique specialty that really maybe not that available in your home country. For those who wish to teach abroad, the US has specific benefits in that it has a very kind of deep and well-respected scholarly community. So really at any of the dozens of law schools in the United States that have LLM programs, you will find there some of the best scholars in all areas of research. So to have that kind of network as well as the substantive knowledge is really advantageous. And as for those who have already or are imminently going to move to the US permanently, it becomes very important to try to qualify for a bar exam. Typically the New York bar exam, though there are others such as Massachusetts and California. To take the bar exam is an absolute must to be able to practice in the US. So basically, it's just a question of which of these benefits you. Are you looking for substantive knowledge? Are you looking for life experience, a credential or intermediate step? Are you looking for something to kind of upgrade your competence or prestige? In general, it's a degree that is there for you when you need it. There is not a definite timeline on when you should pursue an LLM. It's there for when you're ready and when you see a way to be able to launch yourself and become the professional that you want to be. There are programs that are offered within the US and even within the city we're going to show today are so diverse. They address different kinds of needs in different kinds of ways. And so I hope in our breakout sessions, we're able to get to that. So I'm just going to call upon the next speaker, who's from Suffolk, and she will take you through the common application process, the LSAC process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vic. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the LSAC application process. Here, it just highlighted quickly, and I'll talk a little bit more about the programs that we offer and sort of the differences between Suffolk and the other wonderful schools that are here with us this morning. But we offer 2 LLM programs, a General Master of Laws program, and then a very specialized, unique program, a Master of Laws in Global Law and Technology, which allows you to further specialize in up to 2 different of those 4 listed areas. So getting started, I think the #1 advice that any of us can tell you is get organized. What you're doing today is one of the most beneficial things that you can possibly do, to learn about a diverse array of different types of schools, because I think for all of us, what we're really most interested in is that you're going to be a great fit for our program. So learn as much as you can. If you can visit in person, definitely go and do that. But here, if that's not something you're able to do, Zoom is a really close second. Lots of us have virtual tours. We're happy to meet with you one-on-one in Zoom rooms, and we hope that many of you will come to our various breakout sessions today. Vic talked a lot about this morning of, are you eligible for an LLM degree? And LSAC, which is the primary way that many of us will get and receive your LLM applications. And so that's the law school. They will, not all of us require it. Many of us do. At Suffolk, we don't require it, but we prefer for you to utilize LSAC. And what it does is it allows it to be an easier process for you. So if you are applying individually to each school, you have to gather all of your application documents and send them individually to each school, versus LSAC operates as a hub for you to send your information, do your applications, submit your personal statement, and then you tell LSAC where you want, to which school you want to send those items to. So it makes it a lot easier, less cumbersome for you to undertake this process. So sometimes I get questions, oops, sorry about that, about the various different fees. It can be a little confusing in LSAC. What do they mean? There is a one-time fee of $35, which is the electronic application fee. So for you to be utilizing and applying online through LSAC. And then there's a one-time $50 fee of the document assembly service. So they are gathering, you're submitting your personal statement or your letter of motivation, your letters of recommendation. And so they're compiling them all together in sort of one folder, you might think of. And then there's the the International Transcript Evaluation Service. So many of us will require that, and they're going to look at all of your various different transcripts. And it's really important here, you have to send in, so whether or not you completed your degree at one school and then you transferred to another, you have to submit transcripts, official transcripts from each one of those institutions. And then you have deciding which school you want to receive your application materials. And so for that, that's called a law school report. And that has that additional $30 fee. And the last is each school has its own individual application fee. I am sure many of my colleagues here today that we often provide fee waivers. Certainly at Suffolk, we do. As soon as an applicant asks, we provide them an application fee waiver. Some of our colleagues today might even provide other additional fee waivers as well for some of the other fees that you see listed. So it is always worthwhile, and what can be somewhat of an expensive process, to ask if they are able to give you an application fee waiver. So as you know, you will have learned, having gone through law school already, and certainly you will hear, I think we're broken records in US legal institutions, and our faculty members saying, when you're looking at an exam, what is the first thing you need to do? Is you must read the instructions. Number one, read the instructions. And that's the same thing in applying to law schools. So read the instructions. Each one of the institutions might ask for a little bit of something different. So maybe it's the numbers of letters of recommendations that they submit. Maybe it's who you need to get a letter of recommendation for. Maybe you're answering a specific question for, instead of having an open-ended personal statement. So read the instructions. Make sure you're using LSAC's transcript request form. That's what you're going to be sending to the various different educational institutions. If your institution, if your law school has closed, then that might be the Ministry of Higher Education. There are ways to make sure you can get your transcripts. Sometimes it's going to be a little bit harder, but in the end, it will certainly be worth the effort. And all of them must be mailed directly to LSAC. You cannot send those documents yourself. And then you're reaching out to your recommenders. So we require 2 recommenders. We accept up to 4. That's probably pretty similar to many of the colleagues that are here with us today. And they are going to submit their letters of recommendation directly to LSAC, either as an e-copy or as a hard copy. And then if you are required, you must take a TOEFL, IELTS, and some of us might utilize other English language proficiency exams. We also accept Duolingo. And many of us might have different countries or a list of countries that we require you to take an English language proficiency test. And sometimes we might do an interview with you and decide that we're going to waive an English language proficiency test. So that varies quite substantially from school to school as well. And then the credential evaluation. So this is, all of you are coming from different educational institutions. So many of us that may have been working in this field for a number of years might be quite familiar with a number of different legal systems in various countries around the world, but perhaps the rest of our admissions committee are not as familiar. So what LSAC does is really breaks it down in a very easily digestible way so that we can have a better understanding of is what, if you are graded on a scale of 0 to 20 and you have a score of 9, if somebody is not familiar with that system, they might think, well, that's a really terrible grade. But in your educational system, that actually might be a very good grade. So that's why it's important to have these credential evaluations. And then always the hardest part is waiting for decisions. So we know we all try very hard to get decisions out to you as quickly as possible because we know you're anxious, you're excited, you've made that first step of deciding that you want to go and pursue legal education in the United States. So we will, rest assured, are working quite quickly to try to get those decisions back to you as soon as possible. And questions about LSAC, the #1 place to go is to contact LSAC directly. So LLM info at LSAC, it also can be reached by phone. They're the experts and they'll be able to walk you through the process, troubleshoot to make sure that you're able to submit your applications. And then lastly, just a quick highlighting Suffolk law. We also are, I'd say, a small to mid-sized LLM program at any given time, around 20 to 25 students. But the difference is Suffolk Law School is actually quite a large law school. So that comes with wonderful resources such as a gorgeous building right located in the heart of the city. We often say that Boston is our campus. It is a distinct urban feel. We're on the Freedom Trail directly across from Boston Common. And we offer a couple of different degrees, both within the LLM sphere. And then also we have a very new MS in Law Life Sciences degree, which is STEM approved, interdisciplinary, combining law, business, and science-based courses for individuals to gain access to the really, I'd say, the #1 global hub in the world, the biotech life sciences industry in Massachusetts. And then because we're both a full-time and part-time program, as an international student, you'll be full-time, but at Suffolk, that allows you the ability to choose to take courses when you want to take them. So offering courses starting at 9 o'clock in the morning until 10 p.m. at night, and a wide array of courses to choose from. So my job as the assistant dean, and I'm also the dedicated academic advisor for all of our students, is to work with you one-on-one to narrow down 200 elective courses, 100 courses to choose from in one semester. And my job is to help work with you to narrow that down to maybe 4 or 6 courses and really plan what your LLM degree is going to look like, what courses are going to best fulfill your specific career goals. All applications are automatically reviewed for merit-based scholarship potential, ranging up to 50%. And of course, we have a specialized career services that work individually with our LLM students. And you can start in August or in January. So we have 2 intake cycles. And lastly, you are eligible to do curricular practical training and the second semester, which is a fancy word for having an internship, to take the skills and the knowledge that you are learning within your LLM program and apply it sooner than waiting for optional practical training, which is after your LLM degree. So I hope you'll come and learn more about Suffolk in the breakout room after. And I will stop sharing my screen and pass it off to my colleague Maureen at BU.
Thank you so much. We have similar jobs, Bridget. I also do a lot of academic advising in my role, and I share, I'm sure, all of our colleagues' enthusiasm for seeing all of you today here to join us in this presentation. Thank you for taking the time to learn a little bit about your future and what might await you in Boston. So I'm the director, as mentioned, of the American Law Program, and I have the real pleasure of looking out the window and seeing this every day. This is not a professional photograph. This was taken from my iPhone, from my office window, and Boston University enjoys tremendous location. We're right on the Charles River. We overlook the city, and yet we're still nestled right in the heart of Boston, of course, the world's intellectual capital. So Boston University itself has 5 different LLM programs. The first is a 2-year legal English certificate program. But if you've understood the presentation so far from my colleagues so wonderfully made, you don't need it. It's for students who really need a lot of extra support in English. Our primary programs are the American Law Program, Graduate Tax Program, Banking and Financial Services, as well as Intellectual Property. We are a big program. We have over 240 LLM students typically. The American Law Program this year had 180 because we had a COVID bounce, but we like to sit between about 120 and 140, which gives you an opportunity to graduate with an international network of lawyers from around the world. We offer courses on an LLM only basis, as well as with our JD program. So there are over 200 classes to choose from, and we really can personalize your academic experience depending on your needs as an English language learner, as well as your desires as to which courses are the best fit for you. We have over 33,000 students, 9,000 of them come from around the world. So we're a little bit like the UN, and we represent over 130 countries. I mentioned these are our programs that we have. And of course, I'm the director of the American Law Program and look forward to speaking with you about that in the breakout session if you make your way there. Just some views of our campus community, and of course, sitting right on the Charles River, which all of us on the panel enjoy. Boston is a wonderful place to live, as any of us could attest. But my task is to tell you about creating personal statements for tips for drafting effective personal statements. If you apply to any of our programs, you'll need to write one. So how do you make it great? So have you ever written one? If not, it's actually a good opportunity to think about your goals and who you are and what you want to do. We're going to talk today about what makes it good to great. So a personal statement as defined is a carefully worded, detailed document. It addresses who you are personally and professionally, should address your short and long-term goals, and finally lets the reader know if you're a good fit for the institution. So let's break the definition down. So here's a sample personal statement. I didn't get this, but let's pretend I did get this, and let's parse it to see what's good and what's bad. So you can see in bold some things that as the reader, any of us on the panel would say, so English, it's capital E, I, capital I, resolve is incorrectly spelled, comma errors. So success in personal statements really starts with carefully worded, detailed, and edited. This is your statement about who you are. So proofreading is incredibly important, and just think about what you want to say before drafting it. Word choice will matter. Use nice, strong verbs, active verbs, strong topic sentences, and watch for punctuation errors. It also addresses who you are personally and professionally. So who's that? We need to think about who am I and what do I want to posit as a reason for any one of our institutions to accept you. It's sometimes helpful to talk to someone about that. Talk to them about what they've observed about you. What do you want out of your academic experience? And what is your story? What makes you unique? Don't restate your resume. We've already read that. Don't try to be something that you're not. It could be that you're recently graduated, but you're really smart and had a few great internships. That's fine. Be genuine and be authentic. We want to know your story, but keep it real. That said, don't be too personal. Sometimes students may cross the line a bit. Your hardship stories sometimes may fit with your narrative. Sometimes they cross into a level that is simply too much personal negative information that maybe you don't want to share with admissions teams. So show good judgment about what you disclose. What you disclose, does it help educate the reader as to who you are and why you might be a good fit for their institution? What are we looking for? Well, we're looking for you. The fact that you're here and that you're taking time to learn about programs in your future says a lot about who you are. We are looking for confident, mature, likable, talented, and interesting candidates. But it's helpful to kind of stand out from the crowd. So how do you do that? Discussing your short and long-term goals helps us to evaluate where you fit in. We at Boston University have more than 24,000 alumni in every state in the union in more than 100 different countries. How do you fit in with that global community of learners that have come and shared time here? What are your short-term goals? What are your long-term goals? Don't tell us what you think we want to hear, because every student comes to us with a different story, and we are intensely curious about all of them. Yesterday, I interviewed fascinating women from Iran, from China, and Pakistan. And let me tell you, the future is bright for women in the world if these women achieve what they set out to do. So tell us who you are, what you want to do, and what your impact and how our education at our institution will help you achieve those goals. What else is it? It lets us know if you're a good fit for our respective institutions. Think before you write. Learn a little bit about us. There's lots of homework that you could do. All of our websites are comprehensive. We tell you a lot about our programs. You can also read about our faculty. You should get curious about who we are and why we might be a good place for you. And then you should highlight that in your personal statement about how you fit with our ethos. Here's a sample that we could look at again. I'm very impressed with the faculty at Boston University School of Law. Great, good start. Because of their consistent ranking in US News and World Reports, fine. That's why I'm eager to begin my studies at American University, Washington College of Law in Chicago. That's a problem. So I'm sure that Vic could attest. I'm sure you've seen at BC some students who are super excited about going to Boston University. Sometimes we see students who are very excited about going to Boston College, but we're Boston University. We're not Boston College, and American University is located in Washington, DC, not Chicago. So proofreading is important, and correlating those institutions obviously is important in your statement. This is a good advice that I'm going to take because I'm soon going to be gone from you. But be bright, be brief, and then be gone. Okay, these should be short. We read a lot of these. We read them quickly. We want you to be honest in your personal statements, but not give us too much unnerving detail. We want you to keep it interesting, but less is often more. Don't overthink this. You know who you are, what value you have, and what you could bring to our programs. Just tell us what that is. Be bright, be brief, and be gone. With that, I'm soon to be gone, but before I do, I just want to highlight and thank you for taking some time to learn a little bit about Boston University and our other colleagues at our schools. If you're interested in learning more, please see me in the breakout room. You'll see pictured on the top right side of this slide some of our amazing graduates, and it's such a pleasure and honor to work with them each year. So I hope to have an opportunity to meet you in the breakout rooms, and then I will happily toss this to my colleague here, Megan Mayer at Northeastern University.
Thank you very much, Maureen. And thank you everyone for joining us this morning. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Apologies. There we go. So I'm going to start out talking a little bit about Northeastern University School of Law and the LLM program, and what makes us a little bit different from other schools in the Boston area and why that might be a good fit for you. And then I'm going to talk more specifically about your letters of recommendation, how many letters you should submit, who you should ask to write your letters, and how you should ask for a recommendation. So Northeastern University School of Law, we are located in downtown Boston. We're very centrally located near Fenway Park, if anyone's familiar with the Boston Red Sox. We are, the law school itself is relatively small. The LLM program enrolls about 30 students a year, while the JD program enrolls about 200 students a year. So there's about 600 JD students in general. But the Northeastern University as a whole is actually quite large. We are, as I mentioned, an urban campus, but it's also very green, and it's sort of the best of both worlds, in my opinion. Northeastern signature cooperative legal education program is one of our unique features and really sets Northeastern Law School apart, and is an opportunity where students can work full-time in a legal practice setting as part of their LLM program. So our on-campus LLM, we offer a general program or one of 4 concentrations. Students who are looking to take a US bar examination will generally choose the general program because it gives flexibility to choose particular courses. As I mentioned, students can choose the experiential LLM, which includes 1 semester of legal practice experience, or more traditional LLM, which is just 9 months of academic coursework. And the co-op, if you choose to participate in a co-op, you would work full-time, as I mentioned, for 1 semester with substantive legal work experience. And we have about 1,000 co-op opportunities in 40 states and 70 countries. And you would also be working with a dedicated professional development advisor to help secure a co-op placement and develop a career plan. So, topic of my presentation is letters of recommendation. Your letters of recommendation are an extremely important component of your application file, and they provide the admissions committee insight into your strengths as an applicant from those who have worked with you closely. So how many letters should you submit? LLM programs each have their own requirements as to how many recommendation recommendation letters they would like to see. I would say most programs require between 1 to 3 recommendation letters, and some programs also accept additional letters. For example, Northeastern, we require 1 letter, but we will accept up to 2. Obviously, you want to make sure that you submit the minimum number of recommendation letters, but when deciding whether you should submit additional letters, keep in mind that more isn't always beneficial or helpful for your application. The quality of your recommendation letters will always be considered over the quantity. So if additional letters don't necessarily add anything to your application or might be viewed as redundant or extraneous, you should certainly feel comfortable with just submitting the required number. Who should I select as my recommenders? So you should select recommenders who know you either academically or professionally and can personally speak to your strengths as an LLM applicant and your ability to exceed in a graduate legal program. Academically, this could be a law professor or advisor who can speak specifically to your academic abilities. And professionally, this might be a supervisor or boss who oversaw you or who oversaw your work and knows you in a supervisory capacity. When choosing recommenders, you always want to highlight personal, whether or not they know you personally over title or position. For example, I would always rather see a recommender from a professor who worked with a student closely, as opposed to a dean of a school or a director who might not necessarily know that student all that well. The personal relationship, in my opinion, is always valued over a title or position of a recommender. So definitely always choose someone who knows you personally and has worked with you closely. When choosing who you should select as a recommender, you want to be mindful of any programmatic requirements. Some programs do require either an academic or a professional recommendation, so you want to keep that in mind. Others may set requirements based on where you are in your particular career or academic, or where you are in your education. For example, if you have recently graduated from law school or you are about to graduate from law school might suggest that one of your recommendations be from a professor or someone who knows you academically. And obviously, if you've been out of school for a period of years and you are well into your legal career, having a professional recommendation would be beneficial in reviewing your application for the admissions committee. So you certainly want to keep that in mind. Is there anyone that you should not ask for a recommendation letter? And that would be friends, family, or anyone who knows you in a strictly personal capacity. So these letters generally are not helpful in reviewing an application, and sometimes will not even be accepted. So you definitely want to stay away from anyone who only knows you in a personal capacity, and always choose someone who knows you academically or professionally. In general, most LLM programs do include what they're looking for in recommendation letters on their website, typically within the FAQ section. So it's always good to do, as Bridget mentioned earlier, it's always good to do your research and prepare and follow instructions. So requesting a letter of recommendation. When approaching someone for a recommendation, you want to be mindful of when and how you ask them. First, ensure that you approach a potential recommender with well in advance of any application deadlines. I would say this at least 1 to 2 months prior. Also keeping in mind of when your recommender might be busy during the course of the year. So for example, if I were asking one of my professors to write a letter of recommendation, I might keep in mind that they could likely be busy more towards the end of a semester when there's exams and grading going on. So I might want to factor additional time in if I'm asking a professor, given their particular busy times during the year. You also want to give recommenders all relevant information in preparing your recommendation. This would include any deadlines that they would need to adhere to. You want to include all the programs that you're applying to, specific information about those programs, any deadlines or instructions to submit the recommendation letters. And then also you might want to provide them with your particular motivation for pursuing an LLM degree, or how you're looking to advance your career with this particular credential. That will give the recommender context to highlight certain things in the recommendation letter. You might also want to consider including your resume or personal statement or any particular details as well. And as always, the more information that you and detail that you provide, the smoother the process will be for your recommender. So you generally want to make it as easy as possible for the recommender to submit their letter to the appropriate institutions. So that concludes my presentation. And thank you again for joining us. And I hope to speak with some of you in the Zoom room a little bit later on. And I am now going to pass this to John Chalmers at New England School of Law.
Thank you, Megan. I apologize in advance. I had two sets of slides, one about New England and one about the bar. The bar ones are loading fine. My New England ones are not. So I have to just kind of talk for a few minutes and without the benefit of slides, which is, so you have to look at me for a little while. I'm sorry about that. So quickly, New England Law School was founded in 1908 as a women's law school, as a school of access. We are a standalone law school, unlike all of our other colleges of universities attached to them. So we are only about law. We have about 1,000 students in our school. Only about 20 or so that are LLMs. We get about 5 to 6 entering LLM students a year. We have 2 different LLM programs. We have an American law LLM and what we call our foreign law bar program. So if you come from a common law country, the Massachusetts bar allows you to sit for the bar after taking 15 credits. So if you're from the UK or India or Hong Kong, if you didn't want to get an LLM, that is another option that we offer here. We have about 29 countries represented in our LLM alumni base so far. They come from all around the world. And on that note, I think I'll just kind of jump into the bar qualifications and how you can sit for the bar in Massachusetts with an LLM degree. So let me share my screen. So I'm going to be talking about the Massachusetts bar exam requirements. Each state has its own rules. So if you're interested in practicing in New York, California, please reach out to the State Board of Law Examiners of that, because they all do have their own requirements. If you go to abanet.org, you can actually have a nice, easy place to look at all 50 states and their requirements. But the Massachusetts bar, what are the requirements? You must be admitted to practice law in a foreign country. Obviously, be a graduate of a law school there as well. And you have to be admitted at the bar, in which you have to be admitted to the jurisdiction as well. And you must complete an LLM program of at least 24 credits. All of our programs, I'm sure, are 24 credits. And you have to take a minimum of common law professional responsibility, and then a minimum of additional 3 bar tested courses. That could be torts, that could be family law. That is really where you can kind of make your own coursework if you want to take the bar in New York. Distance study, correspondence study, and online programs are not acceptable. So you have to be in person studying to take the Mass bar currently. So once you decide to take the Mass bar, what do you need to do? You need to, at least 4 months prior to making a petition to sit for the Mass bar, you have to get a determination of eligibility. So that requires you to submit a cover letter to them, detailing the reasons and and a lot of documentation. So you have to gather all of your official transcripts, diplomas, course descriptions, if they're not on the transcript, an official certificate of admission or good standing from the bar, from your local bar association, and a resume. It's very time consuming. A lot of this you'll have done when you're applying to look to the LLM program. So that's the good thing about all of this. But this is something that you have to kind of just go through and do prior to taking the bar. You can actually do this prior to even enrolling in the LLM program if you're concerned about whether you can sit for the bar. This is a good way to do it, is to reach out to the Massachusetts or whatever state you're thinking about. And finally, it's again, this is a short presentation, yay, thank goodness, so we can get on with the rest of it. Here's some of the information for the Mass Board of Bar Examiners, the contact info, the website, the email, and their phone number. Reach out with any and all questions. They're very responsive. They're very helpful. guiding you through the process a little bit more. And that is the end of my presentation, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Wonderful. Thanks, everyone. We have a number of questions coming through, and I'm just going to, I've gathered them up into, there are about 3 or 4 themes. So we can go through each of them, or each participant can go through them. So there are questions about the following: part-time programs, online programs, full tuition scholarships, and whether what exams each school accepts for English for English equivalency. So what we could, those are probably mostly up or down, yes or no type questions. So I'll just start there. For our part, we don't do full tuition scholarships. You come to later generally, but if that's your requirement about applying in the first place, I'll say we don't have those. We do have, we do welcome Fulbright scholars who are often well-funded, as well as certain exchange partners who pay their home tuition. But otherwise, we do offer each of our admits partial scholarship based on merit, availability, and need. We do not have part-time at BC. We do not have online at BC. And as for our flexibility with English language exams, we take the IELTS. We also take the TOEFL, and the other kinds of exams such as Duolingo, we don't take right now as official exams. But in the case that somebody is requesting a waiver based on a number of factors such as professional experience, previous education, and so on, Duolingo could be a supplemental source to look at. So that's us. Does anyone want to pick their favorite or jump into all of them? Do we want to get a yes or no on at least half-time and online? Does anyone offer part-time or online programs?
So Northeastern, oh, I'm sorry, Melissa. Maureen, did you want to go ahead?
It's fine, you go first.
Okay,
I'll jump in.
Northeastern does not offer part-time programs, but we do have an online LLM program. It's obviously different from the on-campus program, not just in the fact that in the method of instruction, but also with the concentrations offered. And online LLM students do not have the opportunity to participate in the co-op program.
And I was just going to jump in to say that we have a number of different programs, as mentioned. We have the tax and banking, both have online and residential components to it. There are also flexible start times that those can start. American Law program starts in January and in September, but it is a full residential program as well.
We do not offer any online programs at Suffolk. And we, unfortunately, as much as I continue to plead the case, we don't currently offer any full-time scholarships as well, but we do offer substantial merit-based scholarships for all applicants. And we do accept Duolingo as an alternative to TOEFL and IELTS.
And we actually have a full-time program and a part-time program, both day and evening. Students can take in the LLM. We do offer scholarships up to full tuition for LLM students as well. And TOEFL and IELTS are the two currently ones that we accept. I don't think we do Duo. I have to double check that one though.
And I neglected to answer the other two questions, so I'll pop back in. We accept TOEFL and IELTS. We were accepting Duolingo during COVID, but now that testing facilities seem to be open again, those are definitely our preferred standards. We hope to see 100 on the TOEFL and a 7 on the IELTS. If you have a substantial educational background or professional acumen, apply anyway. We interview candidates that we are most interested in to assess language competency, but those are our benchmarks. Unfortunately, we share the position as many of the schools here. We cannot give full scholarships. We just don't have the funding to it. We have a number of students, like Vic mentioned at BC, who come from Fulbrights or others who are sponsored by corporations or institutions or governments, but I wish we can give more money, but we try to be as competitive as we can. And I appreciate the question. You should always ask about money. It's an important part of the discernment for students. We recognize and honor that, and we try to do the best we can.
And I'm sorry, I also failed to answer the other two questions. So if I could just quickly jump in. Northeastern accepts TOEFL and IELTS, and we are currently accepting Duolingo English test, at least for this application cycle. And in terms of scholarships, we do offer a limited number of full tuition scholarships as well as partial tuition scholarships.
And I missed, obviously, we all needed to have the list of questions. At Suffolk, we do have a full-time and a part-time program. But if you are an international student, you have to be a full-time student. But if you're already living here, you can, we have that part-time LLM program as well.
So I also had gathered some more substantive questions that we can, that didn't, that weren't part of our program, but could be a session on their own. So a couple of students were interested in knowing about job prospects and about career planning post LLM. And I know that somebody mentioned the post completion OPT. I think that might be a good place to get started. Does anyone want to take that, or I can also.
I'd be happy. I'd be happy to start, Vic. You've been tasked with a lot of heavy lifting this presentation. So all of our students are qualified more or less to stay on for a year after your year of LLM study ends and participate in optional practical training. I'm sure all of our institutions here have professional development offices that will assist you in resume and cover letters and networking advice. Accessing the market full-time, permanent employment in the United States, regardless of where you go to school, is incredibly difficult, period. You need to get sponsorship by an employer who's interested in you, and they need to be able to make a case to the US government that they will bring you on board as a full-time employee. It's a difficult thing to secure. We have students who do it every year, but it's not anything that we ever promise. And students who've been able to obtain those positions do it through aggressive networking and a lot of luck too. So I think all of our schools have the institutional supports to help you if that is your long-term goal, but it is a challenge. It is a challenge from any institution to get that in the US. But optional practical training and short-term employment in the US is a much more doable reach, and all of us have offices that will help you in achieving that.
Yeah, a quick note about OPT as well. What I really like about OPT is how flexible it is, really, for, again, reaching your own specific goals. So if your goal is to get a certain kind of experience, the work can be paid, unpaid. It can be, it doesn't have to be for a full year. It can be with more than one employer sequentially. And so in terms of timeline, even if you're not committed to staying in the US for another year, don't want to pay a year of rent, or don't find something that is well paying, but find something that's exciting, or you would like to do something for a few months and bide your time and take the bar exam over the summer, OPT is wonderful for covering all of those things. And it is on your F1 visa, so there's no real change of status that needs to take place. So, as was mentioned, it's just a matter of setting your expectations in a place where you're, number one, not expecting necessarily that you're going to get permanent employment. Number two, you're not expecting that you're going to be paying off any loans you might have taken or so on by getting a highly paid job in New York. That's just going to be the solution for paying for your LLM. So those two things aside, it really is something that can be fitted to you, so that it can be customized to your particular goals and used in a way that is useful to you. So I do like that program. Okay, we had a question, a further question about bar eligibility and whether our programs cover bar eligibility. I think we all indicated something about that. I'll say that John mentioned the Massachusetts bar. I'll just say a word or two about the New York bar. In some ways, the New York bar is a little bit easier in the sense of being less of a hard climb for some of those diversified units that you might have to take. So Massachusetts, when you take a look at it, has a lot of specific requirements of civil law country students, and they have up to 15 units that are required of common law as well, I believe. So that's a lot of work to be able to qualify in Massachusetts. It almost does away with any plan B that you might have to taking the bar, such as getting a specialization through your LLM or doing something else with those units. So in terms of New York, it's popular not only because New York is a well-recognized jurisdiction, but also because they require only beyond a couple of LLM specific classes, such as Introduction to American Law and a legal writing class, and as well as professional responsibility, only 6 additional units in bar-related classes. So if you had a goal to have a specialization or do a lot of your courses in non-bar subjects, New York is still a possibility. Massachusetts less so. One note about New York is New York will absolutely not accept any online work or work that is done abroad. California is a little bit flexible about online study, but there's a pro and con to each of those. So anyone else have any special notes on bar qualification? We all keep an eye on what those qualifications are once you've submitted your eligibility application and you've been told by the bar what it is you need. In general, those are classes that we all offer. There was a question about other states. The ABA does publish something every year that is a chart of the requirements in each of the states. So New York, California are the most popular, and of course we know about Massachusetts, but there are other states, and I've seen applicants to Colorado, Georgia, Washington State, Washington, DC, and other jurisdictions. But those are what we have. I think that some of the questions might be more specifically directed to specific programs. So what we're going to do now, unless anyone else wants to answer any of those general questions, is that we're going to get into our breakout groups. So the breakout room, there's a breakout room for each of the schools. You will be able, as participants, to choose which room you enter, and then you can leave a room at any time and move into another. by using the Breakouts Room button on your toolbar. So we're all going to head there in a minute. If you're, not sure where you're going, you can hang back for a minute and then join any of the rooms. So each of the breakout rooms will go for as long as there are questions, or each of us don't have another appointment, but I would keep it at around 20 minutes or so. And if you're signed up for this session, you can be sure that you'll have all of our our information, and you can reach out to any of us about specific application processes. So let us go ahead and join the breakout rooms. The participants are able to join whatever room they like. So I think we're about to disappear into our rooms. So you can come join us there. And if anyone has to go, well, thanks for joining us. So we've all been brought back to the big room together from our separate discussions. Maybe some people were midstream in their discussions. So I would say the next step is really to assess your interest. Some of our speakers mentioned asking for fee waivers, asking for the application. So if you're ready for fall, or in some cases spring admission next year, then it does not hurt to have options, right? So one of the things that you've learned is that the programs are very different, and it could be a good idea to apply to either the one that suits you or the one or a number of programs. We are pretty much out of time here. So I want to thank all the panelists. We may try to do this again. It's been a very busy year of different kinds of online interaction. But if you have your heart set on Boston, do reach out, find your way to an application, find your way through the LSAC portal, and bring your credentials together. And my only theme here is come when you're ready, right? Come when you're prepared, that you're not going to struggle with language, you're not going to struggle too much with money, that you're not going to struggle any more than the normal struggle of just getting to the next place. Is there any other notes from any of our speakers here?
I just put my email in the chat, but I'm sure that everybody feels the same. Please email us if you have questions, concerns, and thank you to BC for leading our charge here. Thank you so much, Vic.
Okay, it was great having all of you, and it's an impressive group that we have here. So we hope to all be in touch over this cycle. It was great to meet the different participants as well. And if I didn't have a chance to meet you, then you can reach out. Okay, anyone else? Okay, we're past 10:30 now, so we'll go ahead and head out. But before then, if the speakers can each drop their email in the chat, that might be a direct way for the remaining participants to track this down. All right. Okay, I'm going into mute.